gravitation. They would have slightly different atmospheric pressures. And you would definitely have to alter your genes a bit to survive there. And so that's how I started kind of formulating that story. Gunsuits was just from a short story that I wrote called Wormhole. And again, I thought to myself, what if there are no, what if like I was 12 years old and someone had told me the theory that by the time you see the lights in the skies or the stars in the skies, they are most likely dead. And so I thought, space travel would be very difficult if you're going to a three-dimensional space and all these planets or all these star systems are dead. So I thought to myself, well, what if these are not actually three-dimensional spaces? What if they are kind of like the butterfly effect? What if they are versions of our universe that changed slightly? Like if you left your home 10 minutes later, that would create a whole other thread that would create a different reality. And so Wormhole was kind of that idea. And then I thought to myself, well, I love mechs, so throw that into the mix, and you find out that the aliens that are invading through these wormholes are not from a distant space, but perhaps a variation of human evolution that went very, very differently. And instead of using minerals and dirt and hard materials, they long ago, some violent strain of human culture took over. They just started early on experimenting on human beings, on each other, to create kind of like this biomechs and technology that have to deal with flesh and bones. And so that's how I came up.
Gunsuits was actually a very, very good title to lead with, because the log line is just giant robots versus tentacle monsters. Who doesn't like that?
Yeah, that too.
And then shortly after, just keeping with the post-apocalyptic theme from Born Home and whatnot, you had another title that shortly came out shortly after was Broken Moon. And that was written by you and Steve Niles and illustrated by the amazing Nat Jones. Holly, how did Steve come into the mix? Because Steve Niles, frickin' 30 Days of Night,
Yeah, Steve's actually an old friend of mine. I've known him forever and ever since I first moved out to LA. I think we met at like the LA Times book fair or something, and he was signing copies of his Cal McDonald book. When I mentioned that we were doing a new imprint for Famous Monsters comic books, he right away jumped in and said, "Yeah, I'd love to do a story with you guys." And we took him right away because all you have to do is say Steve Niles and people go, "Oh, 30 Days a Night," and a whole bunch of other great things. So yeah, we were just lucky that I knew him for as long as I did. He just jumped at the opportunity. Once we told him the story, the post-apocalyptic story, which was, how did you describe it? Road Warrior meets Universal Monsters?
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, kind of. So basically, these are post-apocalyptic versions of all the classic monsters: the werewolves, vampires, Gilman, and
Frankenstein.
All the classic.
Frankenstein. Sorry. Had a lapse there. Sorry.
Well, and then continuing on with Steve, another book that he's collaborated with you on, Phil, is Monster World.
Yeah. By the way, I just wanted to be really clear. Like, I did not write Gunsuits or Born Home or Broken Moon. They were ideas of mine. They were kind of short form. And these writers, Paul Tobin and of course Steve Niles, and they blew my socks off. I'm like, hey, what about this, idea? And they went in and they created a whole world. So, but the story that I did co-write with Steve Niles was Monster World. So that is mine.
Yeah, and so where did Monster World come from as well? There's obviously the theme, monsters, darkness. You're really cool, but with Monster World, there was a little twist with the noir sense of it. So,
well, as much as I love horror and science fiction, I love noir. I remember growing up when I was 6 or 7, and I'd be staying home from school, and you'd see all the noir stuff that they would play on UPN or whatever, the Channel 44 or whatnot, prior to cable. And I love noir film. I love Casablanca, and I thought to myself, well, what if Humphrey Bogart had to go chase monsters? And so, so I was thinking about that, and then I thought to myself, like, some of the makeup that Jack Pierce did was so groundbreaking and so realistic, and it just literally came out of nowhere. It was, you had a bunch of silent films with kind of like, I guess you call it whiteface or whatever, and then it went to this incredible, prosthetics and just the designs that he would do. And so I thought to myself, well, what if it wasn't technology? What if it was the studios got so desperate? Because the history of Universal Studios is they were about to go bankrupt right when World War II was starting in Germany, and so they were desperate to go from these silent, gigantic ballet and opera sequences to something that people wanted, the common people wanted. So Carl Laemmle Jr. convinced his uncle to start showing horror films, which was considered very lowbrow at the time. And so Dracula in 1931 was the very first talkie horror film. So I thought to myself, well, what if makeup test after makeup test they couldn't make this right? What would they do? Well, these people are from old Europe, so maybe they went back and conjured, got a sorcerer. So anyways, it's my sick mind just kind of goes to places.
So, like, you weren't at your office late one night, and then a dame in red walked in, and you knew where she was trouble right off the bat.
Yeah, that happens every day. Yeah.
Well, I would be amiss to not mention another one of our fantastic titles, Project Nemesis, which is based on the science fiction novels from Jeremy Robinson, and the illustrator for a lot of those, like one pages or whatnot, was always Matt Frank. They have a good relationship, and so when they actually were able to come together and collaborate on this title, like what was that like, Holly? Like taking a property already established and then adapting it.
Yeah, well, it was super cool because we'd interviewed Jeremy Robinson several times in Famous Monsters magazine, because he has these great series where there are novels about kaiju. Essentially, he's taking the Japanese kaiju genre and telling crazy action-adventure political stories with them. And one of his best series, as he mentioned, the great artist Matt Frank, who illustrates Godzilla for IDW, had done a bunch of character designs for Nemesis already, just off the cuff, because he wanted to. And so Jeremy actually went in and adapted his own novel to comic books, to a 6-issue series, and he did a great job for somebody who's never written a comic book. It seems he's totally a pro at it. And so it was just, I guess, serendipity. And then we got Bob Eggleton to do the variant covers, and Bob Eggleton is one of our oldest coverers for the magazine. Again, the magazine.
We don't mean age-wise. We mean like time is different.
Yeah.
Although he might be, I don't know.
That's what I meant. But yeah, he's been doing Godzilla and Cthulhu covers for us for a long time. So we were like, why doesn't he just do this original kaiju story? And he's turned in fantastic variant covers for it.
We have some of the original Eggletons hanging up around the office, and they're just gorgeous to look at. Like, you just walk in, you're like, oh yeah, just hanging on the wall there. It's fantastic.
Well, what makes Project Nemesis so cool is that it's not just a Godzilla story, it's also a genetic engineering story in a lot of ways. So it's like this government conspiracy involving the DNA of a murdered little girl and the DNA of a monster they found. And that becomes...
Yeah, an ancient monster they found on the ice.
Alaska, yeah.
And so they, it's kind of an X-File meets Godzilla.
Yeah.
It's America's Godzilla. Like, we've been eating our own kaiju. We've been borrowing it from Japan for far too long, doing horrible things to it. So we need our own to really shine through. And I think Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance, is definitely right with the big. So. Anyway, moving on to the future of our comics. Specifically, the two gentlemen on the far end of the table here, Killbots.
Can I gush about how much I love this comic?
Yes. Every time...
I love this comic.
Every time Nathan's pages come into the office, our jaws are on the floor. We just love it so freaking much. And it's coming out April 20th, so it's right around the corner here. And so I want to talk to Tom and Nathan now. How did this whole thing start for you guys? Tom, let's start with you. Did you just like, were you, like, first of all, what's your background? And then how did you get inspired to write like this comic in particular?
A little bit about myself.
Yeah.
You know, I've been a writer since forever. You know, since I was a little kid, I had an aptitude for it. Later on in high school, I got my nice pile of rejection letters. I don't know if anybody remembers the writer's market. The book is about 4 times the size of the Bible.
Yeah.
So, you know, I acquired all my good old-fashioned rejection letters when I was, like, in high school and stuff like that, you know. And every once in a while, when I grew into adulthood, I'd get, like, acceptance letter, you know. And that was, so that was kind of my backstory. And I did the good Irish Catholic thing, joined the military immediately after leaving high school. So let's skip the middle. This doesn't really pertain. But so you fast forward, and I had kind of the Hunter S. Thompson mentality that everything will just be fine as long as I can get to California. So I land in California. So when in Rome, you know, screenplay format. That's what you do. You're in Hollywood, and you know, it's no longer short story novel format. I still have a, you know, I'm a good stereotype. I've got a good unfinished novel sitting in a drawer someplace. So I work and founded a company called Siglock Military Tactical, which is a military tactical firm for film and television. So myself and Max Siglock formed this, and it's the greatest Peter Pan job in the world. I have fake firefights for a living. You know, I chased Jack Bauer around for years and could never catch him, could never get close to the guy. But that led to me as a writer working on a lot of small independent films. And one of which I wrote was a film called Project 12, which centered around a lot of conspiracy theories in Area 51 and the Majestic 12 Project, and anything else I could hodgepodge into it. So we were all sitting around, oh, Brian Boone, good gifted actor over there, he worked on that film. So, yeah, we were shopping it around a little bit, and there was a film festival in Roswell, New Mexico. And we figured, if we can get this into the Roswell Film Festival and it passes muster there, we're okay. We're going to be just fine, because they're going to tear it apart. And that film festival was put on by Famous Monsters of Film. And that's where I met Phil. And, you know, we had we hit it off the bat right out of the gate. So, that actually, Project 12 actually won that film festival. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yes. But, so fast forward a little bit more, and they start doing the comic book imprint. And of course, Phil and I have been friends for years at this point, and of course I want to work on it. Hey Phil, how's it going over there with the comics? You know, do you need any new titles? Phil, do you? And of course, yeah, sooner or later, he caved and he asked me for it. And as it turns out, he liked it. He asked me for the first 4 issues first. And
yeah, I remember when it came in, because it came in with a bunch of kind of other mediocre pitches, and then I read the first couple of issues, and I was like, what is this? It's awesome, we're doing it.
Well, it's interesting, because when you first sent it to me, I'm like, oh my God, my friend's pitching this story. I got pitches coming left and right, and I actually didn't look at it. He goes, could you please look at it? I'm like, okay. And then he goes, can you please look at it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Then I started avoiding him when he'd invite me to dinner. Just him and his wife. They're like, would you come to dinner? I'm like, I'm busy, because you get like, you feel awkward, because like, I should really read this, because he's my friend. And I finally did. I'm like, holy crap! I sent it over to Holly, and she was amazed at the development. It's a very in an elevator pitch, it doesn't sound as unique, but when you actually read the script, it is very unique. And anyways, so this.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Okay, so the title is Kill Box. So Disney passed. So I pretty much lifted that title. It's military vernacular. I picked it up. It's You know, anything from 2 feet by 2 feet is your highest level of kills to 5 miles. The military uses, they refer to it as kill box. And it's just a box that's superimposed over any place in the world. And it's, in this case, it's 2 miles by 2.
It's a map grid, right?
It's a map grid,
It's like you call in the coordinates and they just like kill everything in that box.
But it can go down to ambush size as well,
exactly.
and you know, NATO. But so it's superimposed over Los Angeles in this case, and a lot of it was actually inspired by reality shows. You know, because you start watching these reality shows, and Survivor and whatnot. And it occurred to me, sooner or later, the reality shows are going to be, these 5 contestants are going to enter this box and they're going to kill each other. And I just said, well, what if that's underground and it's a massive gambling conglomerate and that's actually happening? Now, if that story broke in the news tomorrow, I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked to find out that because people would tune in, people would be calling off sick to watch this online. They'd be like, I can't make it to work today, it went live today, the site. So, I mean, and that's the smaller story inside the bigger story, is the contestants, and they are actually competing for money to kill each other, along with all the regular, everyday people that are wandering around Los Angeles. So you just walk into work and a firefight breaks out to the left or the right of you, and you have no idea that these people are contestants in an overall game.
This is why I hate Mondays.
Yeah. So that was the smaller story. But I mentioned earlier that I worked with a lot of small independent films, and one great thing about working on comics and graphic novels is you don't have to worry about budget anymore. You know, like when you're writing for a small independent film company, you have to make sure it's like in one room with 2 people, and let's keep this cheap, you know. But
hopefully the Motel 6.
yes,
That's $34.
but you know, and Phil was the one that pointed it out to me. He's like, this is a different universe than that. You can make it, and you better make it. You know, yeah, I got some pride, and he was like, it's got to be a bigger universe. Make it bigger, you know. So I started with the basics, you know, the Illuminati and the secret society stuff. And from there, it actually grew considerably larger to our entire existence is actually a petri dish, and we're being experimented on by people from, or beings, I guess you would call them, from the dark matter portion of our universe. And
there is a huge Phil K. Dickian type of flavor to the story. I mean, I know that I don't think you were thinking about that, but it's very kind of deep down the rabbit hole kind of stuff.
So the great thing about, well, I don't know, the great thing about like dark matter, if you ask the leading quantum physicist in the world, like, what's dark matter? The answer is, I don't know. So it's just candy for a writer. It's like, we know it exists, it's out there, and we don't know what it is, so I can just invent it as I go along. And, you know, and then I started getting pages from this guy. Oh my God, this guy can draw. I couldn't believe it. I was just freaking amazed and blown away.
And he was homeless. I found him on Van Nuys, and
So how did that relationship happen, though? Because, yeah, I mean, it's nice not to have to worry about a budget going into the comics. So how did Nathan come into the picture?
Nathan came in through Holly, correct?
Yeah, we had met.
I met Holly at San Diego Comic Con 2014, something like that, yeah. And she saw something in my art that sparked her interest, and so she wanted to do a project down the line. She said, "Give me some time to line up a project for you," and we, you know, one thing led to another, and you know, I got on the phone with Phil one day, and he started running down the list of stories that he had available, and then he got to Killbox, and started giving me a quick pitch on it, and I was like, that one, I want that one. I was like, I want that story so bad. So, you know, he gave me that, and I got this first script, and I was like, wait, that's 20 pages? You got all of that story in 20 pages? That's insane. Like, that's insane, because I'm a huge comic reader, so, I mean, every Wednesday I'm at the shop buying way too many. And I read the script, and I'm like, that's 20 pages. That's insane. That's the most in-depth I've ever read, you know, in-depth story I've ever read. So From there, I just bit hard on it and started penciling and inking and just creating this wonderful book.
It's amazing because Nathan's art brings such a different element into the story. Like when you first read the script by itself, it's very urban and very hard-hitting, and there's a lot of it, very violent, very, very violent.
Yeah, we got a couple of pages up right now.
Well, which is interesting because when Holly said, take a look at this guy's art, it's really great. It was a Western story. I'm like, it's good. Like I was confused because I'm looking at it going, it's incredibly good art. I mean, clearly he's one of the most, I mean, and I thought to myself, he's going to blow up, and I need to trick him into making as many books as possible and telling him how bad he is. But it didn't work. but then and so I said, can you do this? I didn't even have anything in mind. I just thought, kind of maybe more conventional artwork, and he brings me this urban graffiti style where, like, arms are going in from one panel to another, and he's juxtaposing, one contestant versus another, and it looks like they're looking at each other, but they're totally two different ones. I mean, there was a lot of complications to taking a very condensed story and turning it into a single panel or two panels to explain, this madman's writing. So when it started coming in, I was just blown away. I'm looking at it going, I don't know if I could ever replace this.
Every time Nathan sent us a page, we would all gather around my giant monitor in the office and I'd bring it up on the